Hello and welcome. Weeks ahead of the new academic session, which starts in the summer, the government has ranked India's central and private institutions in an exercise that has never been done before. It is a very significant step, and here's why. Firstly, of course, it makes the system transparent and easily available. Students and parents can now see who stands where and why at a glance. Also, very significantly, India hasn't had any such survey backed by the government, something which puts our institutions, experts say, on the back foot in global rankings. An independent agency, the National Bureau of Accreditation, validated the data submitted by the institute. So that's going to be our big focus today. National rankings, India's best colleges. Ask the experts. Call us on that number on your television screen, and we'll try and get those answers for you. Also with me in the studios is Professor K.L. Chopra, ex-director IIT Kharagpur. IIT Kharagpur, of course, has made it on the list there, figuring quite prominently at number 3. Also with me, Dinesh Singh, the former VC Delhi University. Thanks so much for taking our time to be with us here today. First up, let's go straight across to Chennai, where I'm joined by my colleague Sam Daniel. Sam, IIT Madras right on top. We've of course been speaking to students courtesy you through the day, and they're saying they're not surprised. But I want to just speak to them this evening, Sam. If you could just speak to them a little bit more on research. That is where our technical institutions have lacked for years. Do they believe that that could change? Go ahead, Sam. Wondering if you can hear me? Well, we just try and establish that link with Sam in just...
They are quite excited that IIT Madras has been ranked as number 1 in the engineering stream. Yes, they've been expecting this for quite some time, and they say they knew always that their college or their institute will come number 1. And I have with me a group of students and the Dean, Professor Nagaraj. Thank you so much for your time. And if you may begin with you, must be quite excited.
Yeah, we are very excited to be given the position as the number 1. We already expected this because the standard of education and everything is really good, and we are really proud to be.
And what makes the difference on IIT Madras?
I didn't get you that.
What is the difference about the life on
Well, first of all, the campus is beautiful. I mean, if you just go around, you'll be seeing a variety of habitat, the deers, monkeys everywhere. And apart from that, the studies here is like, really top class. The professors here are, at par with, any international university of sorts. Yeah, it's a pretty good, and the, work culture is really amazing.
I have 2 students who have come from Australia, Curtin University, and you are from Texas Tech in the US. How do you find here? You must be quite happy that when you're here, this announcement comes.
Yeah, I'm really proud to be a part of it. It's a great university, and I'm very happy with the facilities and all the support.
Internationally, how do you compare?
It's of the highest standard.
It's as good as any university in the world.
There's life on IIT Madras. How would you define? How would you characterize it?
I'm from Chennai, so I love this place anyways, always. And life is really great. You get opportunity to do whatever you want. You can work on research. You also get opportunity to work in other areas, like, there are lectures from top class people in the world, entrepreneurs. You still have chance of getting mentored by people around who are the best. So it's more of an experience than just education.
Right. Professor, many would also say when it comes to research, IIT still lags behind. Do you think now it's time to address this?
I think perceptions die hard. I think that research at all the IITs has been improving by leaps and bounds. I think it was bound to happen because all IITs, certainly IIT Madras, is strongly networked with the top universities around the world, and I think that we have been able to therefore improve the quality of research by means of collaborating with some of the best faculty and also student interactions. I think our graduate students get to spend time abroad, and we have foreign students coming here and spend some time. It's really, I think, promoted a global culture of research that's truly world-class.
So the excited students and the faculty from the IIT Madras here, and on a lighter note, they say now they are very much prepared to pay even more, according to the recommendations by the committee found for this.
Right. And that, of course, is the whole idea for this kind of motivation and groundswell, perhaps, of great work. Any top institution in the world is only as good as its student, only as good as its faculty and the work that they produce. But Professor Chopra, very quickly, IIT Kharagpur lost out on the #1 ranking because of its faculty-student ratio. Do you believe that rankings like this will help them change that or work on that? Because now everyone wants to sort of be the best.
Well, no doubt everybody wants to be, but you cannot really compare some of the institutions like IIT Kharagpur with other institutions. I mean, all five,
including the other IITs.
all the other 5 IITs certainly are very good in their fields.
Okay.
But IIT Kharagpur is the first one, the largest one, the largest number of departments. There are 40 centers.
Right.
And there are areas in IIT Kharagpur which don't exist in any other IIT.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So, I mean, like agriculture, for example, or mining, for example. I mean, these things, naval architecture doesn't exist in other places here.
Right.
Now you have housing, the whole variety of, there are, as you said, 40 centers.
Sure, you're saying it
so
could
you
be a bit
compare.
like, sure, apples and oranges is what you're saying. There's so much more to offer, but you've still done your ex-institution, you spent a decade there, still at #3. That is terrific there. Well, our first caller online with us, so we've got Ashish joining us from Bangalore. Go ahead, Ashish, what's your question?
Yeah, first of all, good evening, Natasha, and good evening, everyone in the panel. It is good that the government has come up with a ranking system which will not confuse the guardians as well as the students. But at the same time, so many rankings are also there in the market, like India Today and other magazines are also publishing. So it should also not confuse, because this ranking is given by the government.
Sure.
So again, with change of guard in the government, then the committee should be formed in such a way that irrespective of the party in the government, the ranking mechanism, it should not favor few of the private institutions, because there are so many institutions run by so many politicians these days.
Right. Right. No, there's little sign of that. Ashish,
So,
if I may interrupt, there's little sign of that. I mean, we've seen the IITs dominate, we've seen the IIMs dominate, and they've sort of made it quite transparent, that being the whole idea. But I take your point. I'll take it to Professor Dinesh Singh, sir. We've got so many rankings. How do you ensure that there's no political interference when the government gets involved? There are perhaps people who would raise their eyebrows at that. Do you have any response? There are some people today, sir, who've also questioned why the government needs to get into the business of rankings anyway. What would you say, sir?
Well, as regards the fairness of the rankings, you know, everything has to be a little subjective, no matter who does it.
Sure.
You use your own parameters, and I was part of this process to some extent when I was the Vice Chancellor.
Right.
So I'm aware that the process was prepared in a fairly decent and transparent manner, but there will always be lacunae. And why did government get into this process? Because I presume government was looking for some methodology by which we could set the record straight. I presume that's why they got into it.
Right.
But in the long run, I would advise government also to stay away from it and let other agencies run it, whose credibility will not be under question.
Right, because this, of course, is something that the government really has to be prepared for, these kind of questions. But from what they're saying, they made it all transparent. I just want to quickly run through the criteria for the rankings, and they are teaching and learning resources, research, graduation outcomes, outreach and inclusivity are also criteria that the rankings have got into. And inclusivity, of course, being something that global institutions, some of the world's top institutions are now talking about it. Inclusivity, how do we do there? How are our institutions doing there? And perception. And remember, perception is so important, because very often perception is everything. And they sort of looked at perception there, where they've got feedback, they've said, from students and from faculty and from parents as well. So that, of course, also being very key. Let's now go across to Sonal Mehrotra, who's joining us from JNU. And JNU, very significant this evening, Sonal, as you've been reporting for us all day, because an institution that has been caught for all the wrong reasons at the heart of the nationalism debate now finds itself figuring so well on these rankings at #3. So we heard Kanhaiya Kumar there speak to you earlier and say it was rather ridiculous that the government on one hand would question the autonomy, on the other hand rank them so high. But the fact is that JNU must feel pretty proud this evening.
Well, the one word that I hear on the campus today, Natasha, is the fact that despite everything, all the good and the bad and the ugly news coming out from the campus, JNU continues to be one of the best universities in the country. And that it's being followed by the Hyderabad University, where the entire Rohit Vermula case happened as well. So that's the basic sentiment that you gather. I'm joined by several students here, and let's try and understand from them. Now, people say every student I interact with here tells me, oh, this is, we always always knew this is going to happen. You know, they're saying social sciences, anyways, JNU is the best one. And this is the general sentiment. But what do you think, it's quite an irony, and even Kanhaiya speaking to me earlier in the day said that it's shocking that on one hand it was targeted for the autonomy, and that is the criteria for which you've been awarded the number 3 rank as well.
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising at all. This is precisely the reason why we are being attacked. Because JNU presents a sort of antithesis to this entire notion that privatization and, doing away with reservation will, bring in some revolution and universities will become very good. In our country, two logics are being floated right now. One is that if you privatize something, it will become very great. Second is we must do away with reservation. But JNU presents actually an antithesis to all of that. Why we are the best is because we are the most inclusive, because we have a percentage of women that equals the percentage of women in the society. We have a representation of the depressed classes, of the poor people. And here's the thing, we do not learn by rote memory, we do not learn by mugging up things. Our knowledge is actually connected to real life experiences. And where do these real life experiences...
very important to inhale. I also want to understand from you, Rama, you were telling me earlier that now this ranking should become the basis. You had a very interesting point of actually getting more funding to these institutes.
Actually, once again, I congratulate the JNU community, including the teachers, students, staffs and karmacharis, because one of the criteria set up by the MHRD for ranking JNU is the campus democracy, and it is for these people, the campus democracy of JNU has been survived for a long, and this ranking is very much contradictory, because see,
you were saying 50% budget cut has happened. Is that true?
See, they have now cut off. So many budget cuts, including JNU. Like a few days before, we were not getting our fellowship, the PhD scholars and the MP scholars. So we had to go to MHRD, we had to go to UGC for clearing our.
And finally, students are hoping, Natasha, that MHRD, after this ranking, at least will listen up to them and ensure that at least the top 5 institutes, their sanctity is maintained and more funds are brought in for research purposes, at least.